This week's episode of I Was a Teenage Film Snob is not brought to you by hoverboards.
Welcome to I Was a Teenage Film Snob. I'm James Chalmers, your friendly neighbourhood film snob. And this week we have not one but two guests returning to the show. I'm just getting used to the new recording system. It's very, very exciting. We have one man who basically influenced the whole idea of phases with this when he decided to change the format when he appeared the first time. And the second guest is someone who I've described as being one of my favourite interviews of all time and has one of the highest listening counts of all. Please welcome the only celebrity power couple that matters, David and Elizabeth Anderson. Welcome back to the show, guys.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, mate. So, number one, changing the game.
Yes.
And number two, just the most popular guest ever.
Pretty much.
Wow.
I think there's only one show that did higher, and it wasn't mine.
Oh, I'm very flattered. So I'm really, really happy to be back and have a chat to you about these movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I remember, and we said in the last show that you were quite nervous, and I was like, Liz, you'll be fine. You'll be great. And you're like, oh. And we didn't talk about it at all until the end of the episode. I'm like, see, this is easy. David, I knew would have no problem at all because all we ever do is talk about movies. Like, that's pretty much the basis of our friendship. So,
But Liz is a natural.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a natural.
absolutely.
Oh, thanks,
yeah.
guys.
She's got a voice for it.
You're going to find out by episode 30 I'm no longer the host of the show. Like, it's Liz was a teenage film snob.
I love it.
Well, we are continuing our journey through the 80s. That's what we're focusing on at the moment in the show. And I think you're both going to bring a bit more of an insight to the show because everyone I've interviewed so far was either born in the late 80s or the 90s. So I think that decade's going to mean something a little bit different to you both. David, obviously, we've touched on the 80s on your last episode, and I think Liz, we might have touched on the 80s a little bit. But the first thing I've been asking guests this time around is, does the 80s have any significance to you? What does it mean to you? Liz, what does the 80s mean anything to you?
Well, I was born in the early 80s and I think a lot of the movie choices that I am going to discuss today were based on just remind me of my childhood a little bit and going to the movies with friends and family and so I think the movies that I've chosen reflect that, you know, and it was a fun time to be growing up in the 80s, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and for me, the early 80s was my first adventure into cinema. So you're sort of looking at 82, 83, that era. And then from then on, it was, a big part of my childhood. And because you got to think back, there wasn't a whole heap to do in the 80s, early 80s, mid 80s when you were a kid. You either had a Macca's party.
Yep.
A Macca's birthday
Ice cream
party.
cake.
Ice cream cake, that's right. Yeah, Ronald McDonald came around, had a visit. And Grimace. Do you remember Grimace?
Oh, Grimace was my favourite. I loved Grimace.
Do you know what Grimace is? I didn't know.
I don't know.
Didn't learn this until my early 20s. Grimace is an upside down milkshake.
What?
Oh, my gosh.
What?
He's meant
But
to be
why
like
is he
just.
purple?
I mean,
Just
probably the less we know about Macca's and behind the scenes, the better.
strangely, Ronald McDonald doesn't get a feature anymore, does he?
No, it's a bit creepy, actually.
It's a bit creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm surprised he survived the Gacy years. Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
So we had birthday parties at Macca's.
Yeah.
We had maybe a birthday party over at Caribbean Rollerama in Scoresby, roller skating.
yep.
Definitely.
Or we had a movies party.
Yeah.
And it was a cinema party. So yes, a lot of my early experiences as a kid in primary school were at the cinema with friends.
The movies party's a weird one because I did it as well, but it's the least social gathering you can have. It's like, let's chuck 10 kids in the dark for 2 hours so we don't have to worry about anything. Like, there's nothing party about it. Do you know what I mean? It's really strange.
The party bit was chucking popcorn at each other.
Yeah,
and that was the party bit.
Yeah.
Oh, blasphemy. That's
Yeah.
save
and
our snacks.
That's exactly right. And then maybe you might have, like, I don't know, when did Time Zone come out?
That would be the 80s, I would say.
Yeah. So then maybe you'd go to Time Zone afterwards and you'd be like begging your mum and dad, can I please have some money to put some tokens in so I can play some arcade games and stuff? Because I know mum was always like, no, you just got to touch your things. You're not allowed to put any money in there because, oh my God, Billy Bob's. Do you remember Billy Bob's? There was this place, Billy Bob's. Did you hear about
No,
Billy
I don't know
Bob's?
Billy Bob's.
Billy Bob's is this arcade place where they had a show with all of these really weird creatures with that stank really badly because of the fur. And they would have like a show that I had this, actually, Mum would probably remember, my prep birthday party was at Billy Bob's and you'd have like this show.
Animatronic.
Kind of like
that's
a Chuck
right.
E.
And they'd be
Cheese type
playing,
thing?
and they'd play this music. It was terrible. And sometimes their heads wouldn't work. So it was just hilarious. And then there was an arcade area attached to it, and so we'd go there, but of course you'd get these little gold and silver coins and put them in there. Anyway, I'm going off a tangent, but yeah, that was reminiscent of my 80s at least. Yeah, so the movies, Billy Bob's, and arcade games.
And then the 80s was the era of the VHS.
Yes.
So
Yes.
you had to wait 6 months after the movie.
Sometimes a year. Like
Yeah.
it was really long.
Yeah.
Now it's 2 months.
Yeah. People don't understand, like these young people don't understand the torment we had to go through.
Not to mention we had to rewind the tape if we wanted to watch it again. And it wasn't until I was a teenager when I worked in a video store that I learned that you could buy a rewinder. Like you just chuck a video in, press rewind, and like in 2 minutes it was done. I was sitting there like a fool with my finger on the button because we didn't have a remote. So I'm
No, of
pressing the
course.
actual machine, just waiting for it to rewind, just hearing that like clack,
Yeah.
clack, clack, clack. And I'm like, come on, let's get back to the start of whatever was Men in Black. Or,
Yeah. Oh, well, that was an ingenious idea, the rewinder.
To tie in with Billy Bob's, 'cause I've never been there, but it sounds very much like a Chuck E. Cheese. There's a really great film that came out a couple of years ago called Willy's Wonderland, and it stars Nicolas Cage as this drifter who, in order to like get his car, it's like the premise is dumb. His car breaks down. They're like, look, we'll pay to get your car fixed if you spend a night in our spooky mansion. But he stays in this Billy Bob's Chuck E. Cheese type thing and he has to clean it. And all of the puppets come to life and try to kill him.
Oh my gosh.
Let's watch that.
Yeah.
Like Nick Cage over the last 5 years is giving some of the best performances of his life. It's some of the most interesting films. But yeah, Willy's Wonderland is definitely
Willy's
worth.
Wonderland. All right, one to watch out for. Awesome.
Nice one. And then obviously the last time I spoke to both of you, because you talked about going to the cinema, Knox came up quite a bit for you, David, and Pinewood for you, Liz, as well. So I know that you already have a basis in cinema. The other thing we've talked about when discussing the 80s recently is the music. Like that's been a big part. I don't know about it for yourselves, but whenever I think the 80s, I almost think music before movies. And this was the era, and I've said on every episode, so I'm sure they're like, shut up, James, we've heard it a million times. But in the 80s, that was the first time movies had a soundtrack.
Yep.
In the 70s, you had score, but in the 80s, they're like, wait, we can save money by just whacking someone else's song in there.
Yes.
And then you had the movie soundtrack,
Yep.
which is, I don't know about you, but like that's my favorite kind of music. Like I don't buy albums, I buy soundtracks. And that's what it all started with.
So that might come up a little bit later in your list, hey?
That's exactly what I was going to tie in. It ties in really well with some of the movie choices that I've made. So definitely some iconic songs that when you hear that song, you go, oh, that reminds me of that time. It reminds you of maybe, your first date with someone or like, whatever it is. And yeah, definitely music soundtracks, you're 100%. That's when it became a big thing.
And you said it as well, the movie song. It may come up in your list, but the one I always think of is Ghostbusters, like that theme
Yes.
song. Or Power of Love by Huey Lewis and the News for Back to the Future.
Yeah.
I don't know if we mentioned Back to the Future on the show before, maybe
No,
once or twice.
they might get a couple of mentions actually.
I was trying to figure out what the movie song for my first date was, but I can't tell you a song from Spider-Man 3. I think it was all just like, it was just all score.
It was a bit action packed, yeah.
He dances down the street at one point looking all emo. So
Yeah.
You just mentioned a great topic about the tie-in song and and I've actually, as a result of what you've just said, I've changed my list.
Right.
Because you
Rightio.
triggered something in me, and I'm like, wait, I can't have this. I can't have a list without this movie.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I've changed my list.
It's so funny because we were having a discussion yesterday with some family and like, what's your favourite 80s movie? And they're putting out all these movies like, oh yes, oh gosh, actually, it's really hard to decide now, which is,
Yep.
your top 5. So,
It's not a fair format. Like to only give you 5 slots. And I've discovered that firsthand last week when I was going through my honorable mentions and we're talking about something. I was like, oh, I didn't mention Die Hard. Like I should mention,
Yes.
obviously Die Hard. Like,
Yeah,
just
definitely.
like we were wrapping up. I'm like, Tina, stop! I didn't talk about John McClane in Nakatomi Plaza.
Yeah.
Well, I now have 7. There's no more 5. I've got 7 now. I'm going to go.
Alright.
I'll go with 5. I'll go with 5.
Well, you can always chuck in your honourable mentions
Chuck it
at
on.
the end.
Yes, definitely.
Well, let's look at your lists. Lady, we can start with you, Liz. I'll say
Yeah,
ladies first,
well,
but it's, you know,
We talked about this one just now, Ghostbusters.
Nice.
So, particularly, there's 1984 it came out. I just thought this was a quintessential 80s movie. Amazing actors who still are around, and I love it was really one of those movies when it came out was such a blockbuster because it was so different to what we've seen. And I know you probably have spoken in your podcasts about Ghostbusters and stuff, but I just thought like there's nothing quite like a 30-year-old scientific nerds, a bunch of them, 3 of them, like going in this amazing car that does all these gadgets and stuff, kind of like Inspector Gadget, which was very popular back in the 80s as well. And just the whole idea of like science nerds becoming heroes. And so it's just like one of the first movies in the 80s where you had that concept of, the different genres of comedy and science fiction coming in together. And of course, music was definitely, I've just got the song in my head at the moment.
Yeah.
Who you going to call Ghostbusters?
Yeah.
I was having a bit of a laugh about that one because some people go, I don't know how. I was singing it before. It's like, who are you going to call? Those bastards. Sorry, anyway. And I just remember what scene, like someone say that. And obviously, so it's gone on to become such a big part of our lives, and they've obviously had the other movies. And I actually quite liked the recent one that came out too.
Afterlife.
Yeah, I thought that was a really nice tie-in to the movie really nicely.
Well, I agree. Like my favorite Ghostbuster was Egon, always, who obviously
Yeah.
Harold Ramis played and passed away before this new one.
That's
So
right.
to make this whole film about him, I was really excited. I think a lot of people tend to gravitate towards Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd, and obviously they're brilliant. And oh my goodness, Ernie Hudson. I almost forgot it for a second. I was like, don't forget him.
Yeah.
Like they're all great in it, but there's something about Harold Ramis. I always was attracted to him in the films just because he was a bit more of an oddball and like a little bit quieter and
Yeah.
a bit smarter. So yeah, I love that sequels. But I finally watched it after almost 9 months. I think the other day. The other thing about Ghostbusters we've talked about, you're right, it has come up on the show before, is how well they walk that line between genres. Like you mentioned, it's not just a comedy. Like when it's funny, but when it's scary, it is scary. Like even by today's standards, there's some creepy moments in it.
Yeah.
Ghostbusters is brilliant, and
Yeah.
it has one of the best vehicles of all time as well.
And
It
the city,
did.
and the city
Iconic.
is a character in
Yes.
the movie. It's a celebration of New York City and and the people of New York and how they band together to sort of look after their city. So it is a character in that sense. I just love there's one line in it where Dan Aykroyd turns to I'm trying to think of who the character was, but he says, Dickless over here, and then Bill Murray goes, and then one of the guys goes, is that true? And Bill Murray goes, yes, it is true. That man has no dick. I love it.
Brilliant.
It was
It's
just
really
such
so well
such a
written.
natural.
Yeah.
The chemistry between them was
the chemistry was just great. Yeah, definitely.
Well, the other thing about that movie, and I talked about this a couple episodes ago, was that Bill Murray wasn't even supposed to be in it. Like that's the crazy thing. It was meant to be John Belushi, but then John
wow.
Belushi passed away, with drug overdose. I think it was the right call. I love Belushi. I wish he'd stuck around forever, but I think Bill Murray is such a great fit for that group. It's that dry sense. I think Belushi would have pushed it over a bit too far. Like, where do you stand on the sequels? So you mentioned Afterlife, but obviously we have Ghostbusters 2, and then there's also the one that people don't like to talk about. But but I don't mind talking about that one. I've seen it. I don't think it's a bad film. I think it got a lot of criticism. The biggest problem with that one for me is they made it PG.
Yeah.
Like you got 4 of the funniest women in Hollywood who are known
Yeah.
for being R-rated comics.
Yeah.
You got Paul Feig, who's an R-rated director.
Yeah.
Why did you make a kids film?
I know.
That's the problem
and,
with it.
That's the one with Chris Hemsworth in it.
Yeah.
I mean, hello, Chris Hemsworth. I mean, that was the reason why I watched that. But yeah, no, I thought it was great. Like, I mean, having a female cast was a really great idea. Did it translate well? Maybe. I think people were mixed about it, weren't they? I feel like the afterlife is more of a what's the word I'm thinking of? Like it sort of brought it back to its roots, and I think because they. Because they had the kids involved, and I thought that was really good because a lot of those kids haven't seen that kind of movie that age because they were born in 2010s or so.
So upsetting.
So young. But yeah, and then so it's nice to see that legacy move forward in that way. But I think the first is always iconic.
Yeah.
But I thought the last one, the Afterlife, was probably. Yeah. I thought it was quite good, actually. I think it tied it in really nice.
Feels like a really natural progression.
Yeah.
And I think going for that kind of Stranger Things vibe, like obviously you've got Finn
Yes.
Wolfhard, who is in Stranger Things, but
Yes.
I think that's always an easy ploy, and you've got Paul Rudd, who is brilliant in anything.
Love Paul Rudd.
I remember pitching years ago, and I won't go into it too much because I've told this story a few times on the show already, but back when the female Ghostbusters did come out, I said, oh, look, that's a take. Here's what I would have done. You make the new Ghostbusters fans. So it's still a sequel. You set in England. You get Edgar Wright to direct. You get Nick Frost and Simon Pegg to be the Ghostbusters. They round a couple of their mates, and Benedict Cumberbatch is your villain. Like that's how you do it.
Yeah.
And then maybe like they have a Skype session with Dan Aykroyd. That's it.
Good.
But
yeah.
I like this new one a lot, so I don't mind they didn't take my idea. It's fine. But Hollywood, I'm still here if you do want to discuss it.
Just give us a call.
Yeah.
Give
who,
this
who are
guy
you
a
gonna
call.
Me.
Yeah.
Nice one.
Awesome.
David, what's number 5 on your list?
Well, this is the one that I just changed 10 minutes ago. And so before I say it though, I should probably talk about the one that I changed it from.
Yeah,
That's
sure.
all right.
Go for it.
So I originally had Blade Runner on the list at number 5, and before that I had Aliens on the list. So I was debating between Aliens and Blade Runner, and so I really love Blade Runner. It's a tough watch for some people because it's long. It's bleak. It's a real 40s 50s noir style movie, and the director's cut changed the ending in a fairly significant way.
Well, there's like 40 different versions of this movie as well. Like,
So there's not a definitive version of the movie, and there's online essays and debates about the characters and so on. But no, I did love Blade Runner. Even when I saw it at the first time, I might have only been 10 or so when I was old enough to watch it. So sort of late 80s, but yeah, it's that's a terrific movie. But I'm going to talk about Tim Burton's Batman.
nice.
Yes.
Because
very important.
When you said about the soundtrack, I'm like, oh, I can't.
Yeah.
It's Prince.
Yeah.
It's the soundtrack of
Yes.
Batman and Danny Elfman's score, and
Yeah.
so that soundtrack was really influential. And the first, not the first, but since the 60s, it was Batman reimagined for an 80s audience.
Yeah.
And because prior to that, all we knew about Batman on the screen was
Oh my gosh, yeah. Cringeworthy.
yeah, Adam West.
I love Adam West. I will defend him
I
till the end.
Hang on, we used to watch that. Yeah, definitely.
We did.
On a Saturday afternoon, Batman and Robin.
Yeah. No, I absolutely loved the TV show.
It's funny.
And the campiness of it was basically what I think, and maybe even people came into Batman expecting that level of.
Well, with
Yeah.
Keaton as well, because he'd only done like comedies at that
Yeah.
point. So people were like, oh, Mr. Mum's playing Batman.
Beetlejuice. Like,
Yeah.
really? Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it's looking back at it, I think the best part of the movie is Jack Nicholson, and his portrayal. I don't know that it's the best portrayal or the most comic accurate portrayal of the Joker, but his performance is outstanding.
And terrifying. I remember the first time I saw that movie when he uses the joy buzzer on his boss and it just leaves a skeleton. I ran behind the couch. This is, and I would have been maybe 8 or 9. So of course, I'm quite young, but even now I'm like, oh, that's pretty creepy for a PG film. Like for a kids film, Batman's a kid's character. That's pretty dark.
Yeah.
And the makeup when they
yeah.
his makeup,
Yeah.
but then the makeup that when he uses the smile gas, the laughing gas, and everybody, ends their life with a smile on their face.
Yeah.
It's all that stuff that is.
Freaky.
It's spooky stuff.
Yeah.
But no, Batman was that reimagining of that character. And looking back at it now, when I was 10 years old, going in to watch that movie, I remember I had all the merch.
Yep.
You know, yeah. I went to the Melbourne show.
Nice.
I got the Batman show bag. I got so I got the Batman visual, illustrated visual
Nice.
book, and I had everything.
So this movie has come up before as well. Where do you stand on the art gallery scene?
I don't think I've got an opinion on it, really, to be honest.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think it's the only part of the movie I struggle with. So Liz, if you don't remember, basically there's a point where Vicky Vale gets invited to this gallery and she thinks it's Bruce Wayne, but it's actually the Joker. And he comes in and there's a guy with a boombox and he's like going around, he's like painting on the paintings. And he's like, I'm creating art. So like that's what he's doing.
Yes.
It's a very out of place scene. Just feels like they wanted to throw a Prince song in there. And I have to compare it to the playground scene from Daredevil. Like, Ben Affleck's, it's just like, do we need this 3-minute kind of musical scene? Probably not. The other problem I had with Batman, and I love Batman 89, 2 problems. One is that Batman fires a gun, which he would never do. And when he does, he misses, which doesn't seem very Batman at all. And the other one that I have is that Alfred is the worst secret keeper of all. Like, he's just giving away the location of the Batcave to everyone. That being said, it is a great movie. Like, and Keaton's really underrated. I know a lot of people, he's having a bit of a resurgence now over the last few years. But he really is underrated. He does a very distracted Bruce Wayne, which I like. He's not playing the playboy the way we saw Christian Bale do it. It's a very different approach. But he's just always a little bit distracted. Like, he's never quite got his attention on, who he's talking to.
And not only that, he's a little bit fractured too. You see that fracturing of him. And occasionally you see, Bruce Wayne has always been and has always been written as this recluse. This private recluse, billionaire, playboy, yes, but in essence, a recluse. And, and has really very emotionally not present at all.
Yeah.
And you see Keaton's Batman break at times, and I think that's a really interesting character arc that he played in the movie. That he just snaps from time to time. So I thought that was interesting.
Also, probably the best Batmobile we've ever got. I would say.
Yeah, I think so too.
Well, I like all of them.
Best looking.
I really like the one that we see for less than 2 seconds in Zack Snyder's Justice League, which is the giant tank from Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah.
But this one here, the Tumbler's cool, but this really is a Batmobile. It's got the big fin, it's got the wings. It's the slowest Batmobile.
It's the most retro, I think. I like the look of it. Yeah, I mean, I know what you mean. I like the big trucky one as well, but I think,
there is a chase scene in Batman Returns where they're going about 40 miles an hour and he can't catch the penguin, but it still is the coolest looking one. So, you can forgive it.
I just I have to say, coming back to it, because I was on your podcast a few months ago after we saw Batman, and I've got to say my favourite Batmobile is the one that was in the most recent movie.
It's really good.
Just the sound of it.
I really like it as well. And I really like Adam West's Batmobile. I think that's very underrated. It's very cool.
Do you think they did a good job with that Batman? Are you both impressed with that first version, basically?
The first version or the most recent one?
No, the Batman, the one that you're talking about.
The new one?
No,
the 80s one.
The 80s one. Do you think that was... I mean, I know it's the 80s. It was very different back then. They didn't have the technology and the costume design thing. But do you think it was a good... Because was there another movie prior to that of the Batman? No,
just
not
the Adam
really.
West one.
No, yeah. So, do you think it was a good start though? From where we are now,
I think you don't get comic book movies the way they are without this movie. Superman 78 laid the groundwork, but Batman 89 set the tone. You get that really kind of cool dark tone through the 90s movies like Blade.
Yeah.
All the way up to X-Men. I don't think you get to those without Batman 89.
Yeah.
Now it's not as dark as we remember it. When you see it, you're like, oh, it's so dark, and then you look at it and it's pretty. It's almost as campy as the 60s
PG film
one.
now. Yeah.
Yeah, it's as campy as the 60s in some places, especially those sequels. But I don't think you get to half of those comic book movies without Batman 89. So.
Well, because prior to Batman, it was superheroes were men in tights.
Yeah.
And,
literally Adam West.
Literally, yeah, exactly. And so you don't, that's right. You don't, that was an evolution of the genre to push it to that darker place.
That's, cool.
And Warner Brothers did this thing with a lot of their superhero films where they get a very famous classical actor to play a villain. They did it with Superman as well. You had Gene Hackman, you know, and then Christopher Reeve was kind of a newcomer, and like, Michael Keaton wasn't a newcomer, but he wasn't as well known as Jack Nicholson, and that kind of set the trend as well. Like, look, we'll top bill our villain,
Yeah.
and then, you know, it won't matter who we cast as the hero because, like, I want to see Jack Nicholson.
Yep.
And you can tell that was a Tim Burton thing as well because he's way more focused on the villains in his movies than he's on Batman. Like, he almost couldn't care about Batman at all. But still a great movie.
Awesome.
So you got number 4, Liz.
All right. Number 4 is quite a bit of a change of pace. But When Harry Met Sally.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I've never seen this movie.
Yeah. I only actually saw it recently myself.
Okay.
So probably during COVID, I've obviously heard about it, and I've always sort of gone, oh yeah, you know, I watched that at some point. And COVID hit, and we were watching movies like There's No Tomorrow.
Now
yeah.
is this I'll Have What She's Having? Is this movie?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Cool.
The one where she's,
Yeah.
I won't say it over here, but yeah, having a big go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just that sort of quintessential, you know, 80s rom-com I'm not a big fan of
Billy Crystal.
the other
Meg Ryan.
Meg Ryan. I mean, I shouldn't say that because I actually quite liked some of the 90s movies. Like I liked the one where she's with Tom Hanks.
Oh,
You've Got Mail. And then I liked her with Nicolas Cage, I know, but the one about the angels, forgot what that was called.
Oh, City of Angels.
City of Angels.
Is that it?
Yeah.
I like that one too, but I know it's some people like Nicolas Cage. I don't know, but yeah, no, I thought I love Billy Crystal, and I actually think it's a really good film, and you know, it's about this typical sort of relationship problem of let's be platonic friends, but you know, let's see how long we can be platonic friends without falling in love with each other, and then so and so is dating someone else but the other person's lonely, and then that person breaks up with someone, and then they're dating someone else, and then they're lonely and they get jealous, and yeah, it's that kind of like love story. I can kind of relate it to like some other types of typical dynamic rom-com comedy things, which is 10 Things I Hate About... Oh, no, not 10 Things I Hate About You, but what was it? I had it written here, but I forgot what it is. Oh, He's Not That Into You.
Oh, okay.
So it's very similar to that kind of... the idea, the concept of the relationship is very similar to like Gigi and Alex in He's Not That Into You. So I just thought it's a really, really well-written, warm, funny, intelligent rom-com.
Yeah.
So... yeah.
It is. It's they've got great chemistry between those two. And yeah, I mean there are some iconic scenes, but it is really well written. Billy Crystal is just a natural
Yeah.
in that role. He's
Yeah.
his dialogue's really sharp, it's witty. And you know, and there's clear chemistry between the two of
Yeah,
them, and that's
yeah.
what makes the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On scene and like off camera too, I'd say. And I just thought it was a nice little gem of a movie of the 80s. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I actually think that some of the best rom-coms are from the 80s, which is interesting because if you go back to a lot of those movies, the 80s is where most films get a bit problematic. But I do think you get some of the best romantic comedies in there. Like my go-to is Princess Bride. And I don't know if we're going to talk about it later, so I won't get too much, but that's one of those films where I didn't see it until I was much older. And the minute I saw it, I was like, why did I sleep on this? This is brilliant. Just probably just had the name Princess in it. And, you know, it was with that kid who's like a princess story. But that's my go-to, like rom-com from the 80s. But I think there's a touch of realism that we don't see in modern rom-coms. Like I also go, you know, I was telling you guys off camera, off mic, sorry. One of my top 5 favorite 80s films is Fast Times at Ridgemont High. And now that's kind of like the predecessor to American Pie. You don't get to the teen raunchy sex comedy without Fast Times. But there's a real love story in there as well. And there's heartbreak, and like it ends on such a down note, which you don't see in modern films. And that's why I like those 80 romances, because they are a bit more realistic. Not everyone ends up together. Not everyone ends up happy.
Yeah.
And, you know, the relationships aren't perfect the way, you know, especially in the 2000s. Like that's kind of where I think rom-coms really went away. And they're coming back now. You know, Big Sick's really good like that.
Yeah.
Which is out a couple of years ago. But the 80s, they really nailed that dynamic.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think there was a level of popularity back in the 80s. That's what people wanted to see and stuff. Because I was about to say to you, you don't sort of tend to watch too many movies. Like they don't. I don't know. That maybe it's because Marvel is sort of taking over a lot, and people are like wanting to watch Thor and things like that, which I'm really excited about.
Well,
watching.
apparently this, and I haven't seen the new Thor, but apparently that's pretty much a rom-com. Like they've kind of sold it as a
it
rom.
is. Yeah,
Taika
yeah,
Waititi
we've
was
seen
like,
it.
I wanted to make a version of Thor that no one wants to see. Him
Yeah.
as a romantic lead.
Yeah, it's great.
I think the other thing is that, I don't think it's just the Marvel thing. I think a lot of it is that now they could become so kitschy and kind of like there's a certain stigma that comes with a rom-com with like, just leave it to Hallmark Channel. Which is like, no, get your good writers to do a good romantic comedy. Like, again, The Big Sick, one of the best romantic comedies of all time.
It is a great one, that one.
Makes me cry every time.
Yeah.
It helps it's based on a true story, but at the same time, really excellent.
It's a great movie, that one.
Yeah, it's a great genre. I just think it's been kind of forgotten, and we can get back to it if we just, spend a bit more time, a bit more effort on it.
Good point. Absolutely.
Well, my number 4 is one you mentioned earlier in the podcast, and if I say yippee-ki-yay, so this is Die Hard, and I've got to admit that when I saw Die Hard, it must have been so I think Die Hard came out in 86, 87. I'd be stretching here, but I'm not 100% sure when it came
88.
out. 88.
But I'm just throwing my hat in the ring.
Yeah, it might be. You might be right. Yeah. And so I reckon I must have been 10, maybe 11 or 12. I definitely saw it on VHS because there was no way I was allowed to see this one in the cinema. And the reason it was memorable for me is because I remember neighbours of ours would go on holiday and we didn't have a VHS player in our house. And so we would borrow theirs while they were away. And so then we'd race down to the video store and buy a whole lot of videos. And Dad had Beverly Hills Cop.
Yep.
Oh, that's another good honourable mention too.
And one of the ones he rented was Die Hard.
Yes.
And but of course we weren't allowed to watch them. So early in the morning, before everyone woke up, Matt and I would sneak into the TV room and play all those M-rated movies that we weren't allowed to watch with the family. So we snuck in Die Hard, and it is, it's just a quintessential 80s action flick, with great pacing. It's full of action, full of terrific one-liners, memorable one-liners that people will remember forever. And it was also, again, that breakout for Bruce Willis, who was only previous to that known for Moonstruck. Was it Moonstruck?
Moonlighting.
Yeah, I
like
still like that.
Yeah.
I still like watching that.
Yeah. So he was the, again, rom-com kind of, TV star. And then on he gets being this action movie star, Schwarzenegger style movie star. And that was his career.
Yeah.
His career took off from there. But it's just, yes, it's a Christmas movie.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I was like, I'm not going to ask the question because it absolutely is.
It is a Christmas movie. And Alan Rickman's terrific
Yes.
as Hans Gruber.
And that was pretty much his breakout role as well. Like he hadn't done much before then, and then just shows up as Hans Gruber. Like, give you one of the best villain performances of all time.
Yeah. Yeah. So no, it's a great, 1v100, what feels like a 1v100 through a tower, fighting his way, rescuing his family, and saving Los Angeles. So so he that was a terrific movie. Love Die Hard, and haven't seen it for a long time. I actually really liked the follow-up Die Hard 2 as well. I know people generally really, stick with Die Hard and say, no, that's the best of the bunch. And it is, there's no doubt, but I really like Die Hard 2. And actually also like Die Hard with a Vengeance, which was set
great
in
film.
New York. Yeah.
That scene where he has to wear the sandwich board is intense.
Yeah. So I love Die Hard with a Vengeance. That one I did see in the cinema. But after that, it just went downhill.
I actually do like Die Hard 4.0.
Oh, how many have they made, guys?
There's 5. They're working on
They're
working on another one. They've been talking about this for about 10 years. Like, you were making a prequel. What do you mean? Die Hard's the prequel.
Yeah,
like, what are you getting? He's already a cop in that movie. Like, what are you going to do? Like, him in basic training? Like, you want adventures as a teenager? Like, no, Die Hard's the prequel. You don't need to go further. I haven't seen 5, but 4, you got Timothy Olyphant as the villain, which is really good.
Yeah, I've got to say I'm not going back to watch 4 and 5. I didn't know I wasn't. Yeah, I was sort of lost from that point. But I think Die Hard's a terrific 80s. I think it's the best action film of the 80s.
Yeah.
I would agree. I would agree.
yeah.
Yeah, it's really good. And like a common one is, Die Hard or Lethal Weapon. Look, Lethal Weapon's great.
Yeah, it's a cool one.
Problematic as it is. It's a great film, but Die Hard you said it, it's pitch perfect. Like everything that happens for a reason. There's a reason he has to take his shoes off. There's a reason why he cuts his feet on the glass. There's the reason he straps the gun to his back. And we talked about rom-coms. Like there is a love story in there. Like he's trying to patch things up with his ex-wife. Nothing more romantic than saving her from terrorists.
Yeah, so Die Hard number 4.
Nice one.
All right, we're going through the list. This one I think is another very popular one, which I actually hadn't seen until recently myself, probably in the last 8 years, and that's Dirty Dancing. So I don't know if you know much about Dirty Dancing, but, it's a story of it's kind of like a coming-of-age type sort of scenario. Girl meets a guy Patrick Swayze, who was amazing actor. Baby meets, I forgot what his name, Johnny, I think. And, she's in love with him, but he's sort of like pushing her aside, like the cool dude. And then, they end up sort of getting together and all of that. But amazing, like that one, again, like talking about a music soundtrack, like that has some, songs in there, which when you hear them, like you hear them at like weddings and you hear them all over the place and you think instantly about that particular movie, or it takes you back to that time. And obviously like some iconic things like, no one puts baby in the corner and, obviously the dancing is amazing, and we all know Patrick Swayze was a great actor but also a really amazing dancer. There's lots of things, even just like the dancing in itself, people replicate that same sort of climatic, she'd lift her up in the air and she's dead straight and all of that. So I thought it was just actually a really good movie, well directed, well acted, and that was my number 3. I don't really probably have much else to add to that one, but so.
That's another one I haven't seen, but it's come up about 5 times already. So like it's made the jump to my list. I'm like, right, I got to watch Dirty Dancing. Like everyone's talking about it. And Swayze. Like I always go to like Point Break or Roadhouse, but absolutely like he had a tender side as well. Although apparently he's not so nice to Jennifer Grey in that film. Like
I know, there was I heard about it, a little bit of rumors. They didn't like each other much.
I heard he wasn't a fan of her dancing. Like she couldn't keep up with him.
And didn't she get a nose job after the movie too?
I think so.
And everyone was like, "You've ruined your career because that's what made you you." Her nose was fine, but she's like, "Oh no, I don't like my nose." So she got a nose job. So
there you go.
But I liked him also, Patrick Swayze in Ghost, which is not an 80s film, but that was also one of my favourite.
We might be talking about it in a few weeks' time when we get to the 90s.
Ooh.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. But so that would be my 3rd place. Yes.
Yeah. So number 3 for me, I've mentioned it before on the podcast, is E.T. the Extraterrestrial, and I don't think I need to talk too much about it. If you go back and listen to the previous podcast I was on, and I do talk extensively about this was my first cinema experience, and I just think in terms of when you're ranking Spielberg's movies, it's got to be up. It's really hard to rank Spielberg's films.
Well, he's got a career that's 50 years long, and he doesn't do the same thing twice. I mean, there's a couple of World War II films in there, but like he's always doing something different. And they're generally all pretty good. Like there's not a bad Spielberg film. I think some people jump to 1941, which I haven't seen. Yeah, but I'm sure it's not a terrible.
It's
film.
not terrible.
No.
No.
Yeah, I can't think of really a bad Spielberg film. So it is pretty tough.
Yeah, so I think just for me, it's probably not. It's not the best Spielberg, but for me, it's the most memorable one because of those early memories that I had with it.
Yeah, because I think like a lot of the people that watched it would have been kids and adults as well, but the kids would have really resonated with it because a lot of them, in the 80s. I mean, how old were you when that movie came out?
I was 5.
Oh, you were 5. Okay.
Yeah.
So between 5 and sort of teenagerhood, like a lot of kids would have gone to see that movie and really resonated with it because, you know, all kids love to know about space and you know, whether there's aliens and stuff. And there's a certain age group, particularly for boys and girls too, but like that they just get really into space and they're like, oh, you know, aliens and, you know, all that sort of thing. So this is a really, like, I just think there's also some really nice, sweet moments during that film as well. And it's about, that he embraces, you know, E.T., but yet adults and all those older people around them are sort of scared, like, and he's like, there's nothing to be scared about, you know, this is, you know, and there's beautiful friendship and stuff. So it's really heartwarming. It's a really beautifully directed film, I think. So definitely a really good choice.
Yeah, there's a few scenes in there that as a young kid really scared me and stuck with me. Like there's the first scene, the first encounter with him where he's in the shed, he's hiding in the shed and he throws the baseball into the shed and the ball comes back out.
Yeah.
You know, and so, you know, and that scared me as a kid.
Yes, yeah.
It's that mystery of what is in there because you haven't seen him at this point. You know, what is there? And it's dark and you see the glowing light coming out of the house, just sort of illuminating the shed. And so there was that scene. There was also another scene a little bit later on where he's in the closet with all of the toys.
Yeah.
And you just see as the camera pans around through the closet, you see all these stuffed toys and he's amongst.
And he's just like,
and I just think that the third act is just beautifully paced. It's you know, once Elliot and E.T. are, and you know he dies, you know, and you know as soon as that happens, from that point on, the movie really ramps up to the conclusion, and you can't help but tear up at the end. So no, it's a lovely movie.
I mean, E.T. is so influential that season 1 of Stranger Things is basically E.T.
Yeah.
Like, if you watch it, like, they're riding around on bikes, they're running away from, like, the agents.
Yes,
like,
and that's what I think what makes...
She's using her powers to lift... Like, it's E.T.
Yeah, great idea. Yeah, like, great connection there. And I think also, like, that's what makes Stranger Things... Like, we've absolutely loved Stranger Things. Like, we've been so addicted. We've watched it all up to this point. And it's just so relatable to the 80s. Obviously, you know, with all of the 80s songs that have come out and I mean exactly 100% right on that.
I remember when I watched the first season of Stranger Things, I was like, oh, it's Steven Spielberg meets Stephen King. Like, that's what they're going for here.
Yes.
And I haven't watched the newest season yet because one episode is 2.5 hours long and that bums me out.
Yeah.
I'll get there. I'm like, it's Netflix, just cut it down. Just But everyone tells me there's a metal guy, James, so you'll like it. So I'll get. His name's Eddie. I'm like, all right, I'll check it out.
Yes, that is. You are going to love that, James. You'll love it.
Everyone's telling me, so I will get to it. Nice one. E.T. also. Do you think Mars are now kicking themselves because they wouldn't give the rights to M&Ms? Like, I think about that so often where Mars like, we don't want to have this alien eating M&Ms, so Reese's Pieces like, we'll do it. And then Reese's Pieces like took off. It's my favorite bit of ET trivia.
Big mistake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are blazing through this list.
We're blazing through. So this is a movie that you just announced before, The Princess Bride.
I love The Princess Bride.
Isn't it just a brilliant film?
Yes.
So I remember watching this. Now, when was it? 87 it came out, but I don't remember watching it in 87. It was a little bit later, but not like recently. And I was like, this is a gem of a film.
Yes.
And I just don't think sometimes, like, it did okay in the movies, but it wasn't like a massive blockbuster. And I actually think it's become more popular as the years have gone on. And it's just this little gem of a film that really didn't get a lot of, box office smash. So I just think it's really popular because, you know, it's a fairy tale, but it's got all of the, pokes fun at adventure stories. It's got a bit of magic, bit of romance, bit of comedy, bit of friendship. It's about loyalty. So in all types of friendships and relationships, it's a really great balance of not being too silly but not being too serious. And it actually is a story about love, as we said.
And such a simple love story, like just the whole as you wish. Like,
as you wish.
It's such a simple but effective love story.
Yeah.
Tina had never watched it. She refused to because she was like, oh, my friends keep talking about how great it is. I just know it's not going to be great. I'm like, no. It's
Yeah.
great. You got to watch
Yeah.
it. And she watched it, and I don't think she wanted to admit how much she liked. She's like, it wasn't as terrible as I thought it would be.
She's kind of like Fred Savage in the bed
Yeah,
going, it's not that good.
But like so many iconic characters, like the Dread Pirate Roberts. You got Andre the Giant. Wallace Shawn as the inconceivable guy,
I love him. Inconceivable.
and then Mandy Patinkin
Yes.
doing
Yeah.
rocking
Inigo
an accent we
Montoya.
probably wouldn't do in a modern day film,
Yeah.
but so good. Like, and spoilers for a 40-year-old film, achieves what he sets out to do, like gets
Yes.
revenge.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's it, and we've actually, this is how much it's seeped into the popular culture. Is that I don't know if you've noticed, but in our workspace,
noticed.
on one of the windows in our staff room, there's I think it's the 20 rules from Inigo Montoya, and so it's basically got
Yep.
quotes from the book,
Yeah.
and not from the movie but from the book, and it basically it translates to office stuff.
Okay.
It's he's so it's really clever.
Yeah.
So we've got that pinned up in the staff room.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And talk about it is an 80s films, like there was a level of political correctness wasn't as it is now. And like one of my favorite moments, because we just watched this on the couch during
This year.
with the
Yeah.
kids, because I said, kids, come and watch this film. I think you'll really like it. And we was like, I don't want to watch this film.
The princess
blah, blah, blah.
film, yeah, the way that I, the
And
way
then
that,
they sat there and they watched it, and I'm like, see, it stands the test of time. Anyway, but I was laughing about the priest who's Peter Cook with the list. It's like one of my favourite parts, and I'm like, I know we shouldn't be making fun of like people with a lisp or anything, but that was really
it's Mel
funny.
Brooks, isn't it? Like, is that? Am I remembering?
Nah,
correctly?
Peter Cook.
No, it's Peter Cook.
Peter Cook's
Oh,
in it.
Yeah,
is
it's
Mel
Peter
Brooks in it? Am I to my
I
mind?
don't know.
Maybe he's
He might.
helped write it or something, but I don't know.
We'll
We might have to
find
check
out.
that one
Here
out.
we go. Fact check.
Yeah.
No, it's definitely Peter Cook because,
Hmm.
I may have listened to Peter Cook and Dudley Moore when I was a late teen, early
Yeah.
20s.
Yeah,
Pete and
yeah.
Dud. They used to do they put out a few, let me just say, blue albums, blue recordings. When they got drunk, once Peter Cook had his diagnosis of cancer, they basically just decided, screw this, let's just go out on a bang. And they released a few. I'm trying to think of what the name of the album was now, but yeah, Peter Cook.
It was Billy Crystal I was thinking of.
Oh,
He's
Billy
in it.
Crystal.
He's in it.
Yeah,
For some reason I thought it
that's
was Mel
right.
Brooks, but it's Billy Crystal.
Yep.
Yeah, and
Um,
yeah.
As the he's like the villager.
He makes the potion.
He
or
makes the
whatever.
potions,
Yeah,
that's
That's
That's who I was
right.
thinking
Yes.
of, not the priest.
Yeah.
I was thinking of
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
And has one of my favorite sword fights of any movie between Inigo
Yes.
and the Dread Pirate Roberts.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, I was just using my left hand,"
Yeah,
and then the
yeah,
other like,
yeah.
"I was using my left hand."
Yeah. It's so clever.
I mean, if there's ever a visual for the word swashbuckling, it's that scene. It's just so good.
It is. It is.
And if people like that, watch Stardust. Like, it's basically the same thing. Like
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Neil Gaiman
Neil Gaiman
Stardust. Yeah,
Stardust.
it's very, very similar.
It is. Yeah. Yeah. Actually, I really enjoyed Stardust when that came out.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was that was a great movie and a great book too.
Mm.
Yeah. I was one that read The Princess Bride before I saw the movie The Princess Bride because I remember reading The Princess Bride when I was in high school.
Yeah.
And then later on, I saw the movie, so I came to it pretty late.
And do you think, like, in terms of adaptation, was it as? Because I found it to be quite funny. The film.
Yeah.
Like,
It's
when you
very
read
faithful.
it, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
It's
that's
really
good to know.
faithful,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because I
Very
haven't read the
faithful,
book.
yeah.
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 In fact, some of the lines in the movie are direct quotes from
Yes.
the book.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Oh, great film.
My number 2.
Yeah.
We've reached number 2 for me. Is Raiders of the Lost Ark. Not to be not Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark.
That's not what it's called.
It's not what it's called. That's not the name of the movie. No, Raiders of the Lost Ark is just again. I said earlier that Die Hard was probably the number one action movie of the 80s for me, and I think this is the number one action adventure movie.
Yes,
Of the 80s.
absolutely.
Again, another Spielberg. But we get introduced to Indiana Jones. It's got that again, you were mentioning earlier about Ghostbusters. the nerdy superhero, and he's definitely that again, the nerdy superhero.
Yeah.
The history teacher, the history professor, the archaeologist, so it's beautiful again, wonderfully paced, scary as
Yes.
well, really scary. You know, the face melting scene just scares a lot of.
I laugh about that now, but yes, it was scary when I was younger. Yeah.
Yeah, the special effects don't really hold up, but it's that's a scary scene, and it's just an awesome action adventure film, witty, really sharp, great comedy, great action. It's a terrific movie. Yeah.
Great score. One of the I never hear anyone talk about the score. Whenever people talk about John Williams, they go, "Oh, Star Wars, Jaws, Harry Potter," but like Raiders is great.
Yeah.
Like really great.
Yeah.
Also a film where it wouldn't matter if the main character showed up or not. Like the events of the film wouldn't change whether he was there or not, which I really like about that. Also, I didn't know this till a little like recently, the last couple of years, but Raiders is not technically the first story in the series. Like it's actually like it takes place after Temple of Doom, which it's a problematic film in itself.
It is.
Know?
Yeah.
Poor Short Round got the short stick there, but
Temple of Doom, it works on some levels, but it oversteps the mark in a lot of other areas. I actually am torn between Raiders and The Last Crusade.
people say this a lot. I got to go back and watch The Last Crusade because every time I've watched it, I'm like, I don't like. For me, I only need one Indiana Jones film, and it's Raiders. The other ones I don't mind, but I just don't need to go back to them that much. But maybe I do need to give Last Crusade another shot because the last time I watched it, I was like, it's fine. Like,
yeah, I just think Last Crusade, maybe again coming back to my childhood, that was 89, I think.
yeah, I think so. I think you're right.
89, maybe 90, 80. I'm sure it was 89. And for me at that age, I was 11, having seen Raiders, having seen Temple of Doom, having, come and then all of a sudden we get another Indiana Jones film. And again, it was one of those, it was a big movie at the time.
Yeah,
it was
sure.
a really huge movie at the time. And so it stuck with me in that sense because it was, at school you'd get the book club magazines that come out. I remember going through one of those book club.
They still exist, by the way. Yeah, they do.
The book club catalogue still exists, and on the front cover of the book club catalogue was the Indiana Jones book.
Oh wow,
nice. And so and the Last Crusade. So that was on order.
Yeah.
So just those little memories.
Yeah.
So I really like the Last Crusade. I think it's a great movie.
It's we've barely even scratched the surface. There's so much about that film. The montage of the plane over the map, which has been mimicked so many times since then, but never quite done as well.
Yeah.
He has a questionable relationship with a much younger woman because he knew her when she was a child.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like there is a real love there. So I'm like, it was the 80s, and for them it was the 30s, and pretty much anything happened in the 30s, so it's fine. You have the whole Egypt section, like him getting fallen down with the snakes.
Yeah, the snakes.
One of the best moments in it, I think most people know the story now, is when the guy's, doing all the sword wielding and Indy just shoots him.
Yeah.
And the whole reason for that, there was a choreographed fight, but Harrison Ford was just sick that day, so I kind of shoot him instead.
Oh, that's a growl. There you go.
It just works beautifully for that
It
character.
does.
But it works for that character. It's like, that's what would happen. Like, why would you engage in a fight you don't need to? Just shoot the guy, move on. It's solid. It might be a perfect film. Like it's really good.
But it also comes back to the mythology that it has behind it. The Ark of the Covenant is this mystical kind of object, the MacGuffin that everyone's after, and they tried to replicate that in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. They've actually tried to replicate it in all of the movies. Probably not so much Temple of Doom, but certainly Last Crusade, there was the pursuit for the Holy Grail, and then the Crystal Skull was, the Crystal Skull. And I'll be interested to see with this next one that they've made, what era it's set in, firstly, but also what's the MacGuffin and what's the story going to lead towards. So looking forward to the next one.
I will say this about Crystal Skull. I haven't seen it since cinemas. I don't think it's the abomination that everyone else thinks it is. Like when I saw it, I was like, oh, okay, like that's an ending. It's a different ending. I wasn't expecting that. But when they go back to the warehouse, I'm like, what? That's a great callback. Like, why
Yeah.
wouldn't you get excited about that? That's
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah.
And Kate Blanchett as like a Nazi officer, like, yeah, okay. Like this, I think there's a lot of good stuff in that film. You know, whether you like the idea of aliens included and stuff, that's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
But I think that film is another one that's kind of, you know, oh, it's the most terrible film I've ever seen. It's like, no, it's not. Like, it really
Yeah.
isn't. There's plenty of good stuff in there. And Shia LaBeouf's totally fine. Like,
Yeah.
if you don't like him in that film, you're not supposed to. Like, he's a douchebag from the 50s, like, in a leather jacket. He's meant to be unlikable. So, yeah, I don't have as many problems with that film as other people do. But Raiders is perfect.
It is.
Number one.
Number one, drum roll. This one we have mentioned. And I don't know if we want to talk about too much, but Back to the Future.
Of course. It's
Of
got to be.
course.
Like, it's...
I mean, yes, that's my number one. It is... look, I personally, of all of them... Look, I liked all three. But I think the original is a very... No, probably... I think because it's probably sets the tone and, you know, set, like, the plot and everything, the story... you know, it was original, it was bold and funny, and it's smart and well written. And I love the Doctor and Marty, like two of my favourite characters. I think it's very relatable because a lot of kids would have come to see that movie as well. I don't remember seeing that in the theatre because that was probably a little bit too old for me. But I remember watching at home with Mum. Often we'd watch them on the TV, and actually this is probably one of Mum's favourite movies too. And I had a discussion with Mum the other day, and she reckoned she loved Back to the Future 3 the most. She liked the Western one.
Back to the Future 3 is underrated. I've said it.
Yeah.
And almost every time it comes up, my ranking is 1, 3, 2.
Yeah.
3 is a great
Yeah,
film.
yeah. I think number two, I was a bit like... I just got a little... I felt like it was getting a little bit beyond. But I
Tina
think...
loves to. Like,
Yeah.
we had I wouldn't say an argument, but when she was doing her top
sorry,
5...
Tina.
when she did her top 5, she was like, Back to the Future Part 2 is the best one. I'm like, well... Look, everyone's allowed to be wrong.
Yes, yes. But isn't it funny, like, where some of the things actually came true, like Trump actually...
Yeah, Biff, yeah, that's...
That's what's so freaky. So I'm like, what we need to do is just make sure we watch all of the Simpson episodes and all of Back to the Future, because pretty much anything that happens there actually actually happens in real life. I thought it was great.
I think my problem with number 2, and I don't know if we're going into that much detail, Marty McFly is not a cool guy.
Yes.
Like, he's not. Like, in the first one, it's established very quickly, like, he's a bit of a loser. Like, he comes from a loser family. He's not a very cool guy. And he's not nice to his parents. So why is he being punished so much in number 2? To the point where he grows up and he's losing his job. His daughter, who looks like him, is running around like a maniac. His son's about to get arrested. His mum had to marry his worst enemy and get breast implants. Like, it's enough.
Yes,
Like, that's
yes.
what, it's such a mean-spirited film. I don't think
Yeah.
people realize how cruel that movie is to Marty.
Yeah.
Like, no. Like, give him a chance to redeem himself.
Yeah,
Why are we
exactly.
punishing this guy?
And I think and that's right. And I think he does in the third one when he, you know, and he's like,
3.
like shooting all the cowboys and things like that. And yeah, so I just think it was a really, it was very, very popular when it came out. I also really liked some of the ideas that they came up with, like the hoverboards, and I mean this was for the second one, but I really liked it. And I always love looking at movies that say what it's going to be like in 2020, you know, 40 years down the track, and I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, we don't have the hoverboard yet, so this is what every kid wanted, a hoverboard, you know, and it's funny how all the fashion has come back in.
Yeah,
so
Dust still exists. They got that wrong, unfortunately.
I mentioned Blade Runner before. That was set in 2019.
Yeah.
2019, and it was bleak and raining all the time, and there was
Yeah.
cybernetic androids running around, and
yeah, not quite.
Not
Close. Yeah, so yeah, that was my number one.
And and Back to the Future, and I adore Back to the Future. It's in my top 5 favorite films of all time. But it does that thing which we talked about a lot today, where 80s films just do weird things for no reason. So, for example, the 2 most important relationships to Marty McFly in the first film are with a man who is 40 or 50 years older than him. Their friendship's never explained. He's just hangs out with this old, reclusive scientist that no one seems to like. They're all like, "Oh, don't go near him." And he almost has an affair with his mum.
I know. That's
Like it, you know.
questionable.
Like the love triangle is him, his mum, and his dad. Like that's the. And don't forget that, like, you know, Biff almost rapes his mother as well. Like it's a kids film, guys. It's a kids film. That's an 80s kids film.
No, I'm not sure what the actor's name, the guy that played Biff, but I don't. Have you seen? He has a skit, or not a skit, but a stage act where he plays a song.
Okay.
And you must look it up because he's on his guitar, and his song is about all of the questions that fans ask him.
Okay.
Oh,
So he said, so I get all these questions all the time, so I'm just going to sing this song, answer all your questions, so you never have to ask it again. And then he's like, how's Michael J. Fox? He's lovely. How is Christopher, what's his name?
Crispin Glover?
Crispin Glover. A bit weird.
Yeah.
So it's great. How's the DeLorean? It's shit.
Yeah.
yeah. But I mean, that's what's so funny about it too is that DeLorean's not great. I mean, it looks like a futuristic car of the 80s, doesn't it? And just all the contraptions and all the theories that the Doctor had with Marty, and I mean, it was just mind-boggling. Like, and sometimes you just didn't, as a viewer, you didn't quite understand what was happening. But it's just. Yeah, it's a brilliant gem of a film. No wonder it was such a blockbuster. Yeah,
I'll tell you how effective that film is 40 years later, almost 50 years later. We watch it every year, Tina and I. We watch it every single year. It's one of the 3 films I watch every year. I watch that one every year, I watch Hot Fuzz every year, and I watch Clerks every year. Every time we watch Back to the Future and Doc is up on the clock tower, every single time he slips, Tina gasps. We have seen it so many times, and it's so effective. She's like, I'm like, you've seen this before. A, you know what's going to happen, and B, you know it's going to be okay. She's like, yeah, but I'm just really in the movie. I'm like, no, I know, but like that's how much it works. Like she forgets, and then like has to relive the terror of Doc almost falling multiple times. It's great. I love Back to the Future.
yeah.
All right, so my number one.
Number one.
So I have so many. It was agonising to come up with this list. There's so many 80s movies that I absolutely love. Whether it's Platoon or Aliens, The Terminator.
Terminator, another one.
What else was there? I really like Raging Bull.
Yes.
Scarface
is another one. I mean, there's so many terrific 80s movies. I've mentioned this before. I won't talk about it too much. But when we spoke to my brother last night, Liz asked him,
Twin brother,
what's the most influential? What's the best movie is of the 80s? We both agreed it's The Empire Strikes Back.
His first was Empire Strikes Back.
And we did speak about it at length the last time we spoke. But it's I don't know. I mean, again, question: is it the most influential movie of the 80s? I mean, was there, when you think about where the cultural shift that happened, or I guess the prior to Star Wars, we had 2001: A Space Odyssey, we had Alien, and I think that was just the period of time where sci-fi became a serious film genre
in the 80s.
Well, the thing I always say is we got Star Wars the same year we got Logan's Run. And if you watch those films, like Logan's Run's a great film, but it doesn't look like it was made the same year as Star Wars. It was made like 20 years earlier.
Yeah.
Like Star Wars is so innovative. It changed the landscape. It just,
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. I'd debate anyone to sort of to give me another movie, or even just to give me another film that was potentially more influential in terms of the impact it has had since that.
Yeah. And still continues to do. That legacy that Lucasfilm has just been able to produce over the years. It's enormous how many people follow it. Like, your kids can pick it, and Zoe will be the same. Like, I'm 100% positive that you will introduce her to Star Wars. Like, David introduced me to Star Wars because I'd never seen it prior to I know obviously I'd heard about it, but I didn't follow anything. And then I was like, where have you been all my life? Like, this is fantastic. And you're right, it really did set the bar for like sci-fi. Like 80s was all about sci-fi. They really were interested in aliens. I mean, you had E.T., Alien. What was the other one, David? There was a movie, I don't know if it was the 70s, but or the 80s, where it was like Contact or something, or it was like the
Close Encounters of the
Close
Third Kind.
Encounters.
Yeah.
That, like, they just had this. Or, and Ghostbusters, another example, you know, that the whole sci-fi really came to an effect. And I think maybe it was because of there was a big boom in like computers, like, you know, and so they were really coming in, and look at where they are now. So I think you're right. I think they're just, I would say The Empire Strikes Back, yeah, I'd agree with you. That's like the best
Yeah.
of the movies in terms of like of the 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's still franchises that have stuck around for the
Yeah.
last 40 years. You know, you still got the Alien
Yeah.
franchise.
Yeah.
You've still got Star Trek. is still
Star
around,
Trek, yep.
So I mean, I know there are some that have been around for longer, but I would argue that Star Wars and particularly, you know, The Empire Strikes Back. Yeah, I mean, look, the first one was obviously hugely popular, but The Empire Strikes Back, you know, just it just broke the culture. Like it.
Is it the first sequel that is better than the original? That's what I want. I'm trying to think.
Yeah.
Because Star Wars is an okay film. Like, I know that's controversial to say. Like, it's okay. Like, it's not a bad film, but like, and it was revolutionary for its time. But Empire Strikes Back is a much better film.
It is.
It has a much bigger impact. It's got a dark ending, like a real tease ending. There's betrayal, you know, like where Lando kind of throws all his mates under the bus.
Yeah.
You know, Han gets frozen in carbonite because they didn't know if Harrison Ford's even going to come back. He's been saying that for 40 years. He keeps coming back. You know, before that, I can't think of a sequel that might have been better. I mean, Jaws 2 people do like, but I don't think it's better than Jaws.
it's not.
Like, it's a good film, but it's not better than Jaws. And this is around a time, and there's a trend for, I would say, maybe until kind of the Marvel era,
Yeah.
where more often than not, sequels were not as good as the originals. It was like, hey,
yes.
first one did well, let's throw $20 million in the budget and make $400 million back, that sort of thing. And it wasn't until the modern age of cinema where they're like, no, sequels can be better, with the exception, I think, of Empire.
Yeah. 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 I honestly can't think of one.
Like, you know, like we just talked about Raiders, it's the best of the series.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm stuck in terms of finding one. I mean, some people argue that The Godfather Part 2 is better than the original.
Yeah.
It's debatable. Toss a coin, you know. It's so yeah. I don't know.
'Cause we did mention Terminator and Aliens before.
Yeah,
I prefer Aliens. I'm in the minority. I prefer Alien to Aliens. I prefer Terminator 1 to Terminator 2. So.
yeah. So I prefer Aliens to Alien, and I prefer Terminator 2 to the Terminator.
Yeah, I'm in the minority. Most people don't think that way.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
I think maybe it's also because like Empire Strikes Back, you know, it was a sequel to Star Wars, but the beautiful thing about, I think he's got this beautiful formula, you know, George Lucas, in that he can go like with your, you know, you can go forward and backwards and forward and backwards. It doesn't really matter. Like it's almost like the idea of a sequel isn't important because there's so many elements to the story as you build up through all of the different volumes of the movie. So, you know, like, and that's why I get really excited. That's why everyone gets so excited when there's a new Star Wars movie that comes out, because like, oh, what era is it set in?
Yeah.
You know, what's happened? Where's the timeline? And the thing is, the timeline is what a brilliant idea and concept, like, of a movie. Not just about the idea of the movie or the plot of the movie. It's about, oh, you know, it's really a smart business idea going, you know what, let's go jump 10 years, let's jump 20 years, let's go back 10 years or 20 years and talk about, and everyone's addicted to all the different characters. I mean, there were some characters which we won't mention. I'm just thinking of, what's that weird lizard thing with the...
Jar Jar.
Jar Jar?
Yeah, the least we say about Jar Jar, the better.
But you know what?
Some
I
characters
can
are
defend Jar Jar.
unforgettable. Forgettable.
Jar Jar was in 1999's Phantom Menace. It's for a new generation of kids. Kids raised on the film love Jar Jar.
They do. This is true. But, you know, there's always a story behind all the characters, and that's what makes, you know, any of the Star Wars movies legendary. But, yeah, Empire Strikes Back.
And I'll say this, like Skywalker Saga, so just the 9 films, not the spin-offs. I think there's a bad film in there. I know that, like, most people are like, oh, I don't know, Phantom Menace. There's a lot of good stuff in Phantom Menace. A lot of good stuff in Attack of the Clones. Like, and And people didn't like Rise of Skywalker. I think it's fun. There's
Yeah.
really great stuff in there.
Yeah.
But Empire is absolutely the best.
There's always little eggs, like Easter eggs within the movies that you'll get. So, like, even if it might not be your most favourite, there's always something that you go, oh, actually, but I like this part of the movie, or maybe it wasn't my favourite, but there were parts that I enjoyed of it.
I think people just overhype, or they just have unreasonable expectations about what's going to happen, and when those expectations aren't met, and there's a whole industry around predicting and forecasting, and I said this first, and I get this on video because I'm telling you this is what's going to happen, and when it doesn't happen, there's always that, oh well, that sucked because it didn't happen the way I But when you watch it,
pressures of the
fresh-eyed,
Yeah.
they're good movies.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
not bad movies.
Yeah, yeah.
They're not.
Also, if you think about how integral Yoda is to the mythology, he only showed up in one film originally, Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
Like he comes and goes in that one film.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he's like celebrated. Like I remember before, I wasn't a Star Wars kid, so Tina actually introduced me to Star Wars. I'd seen Attack of the Clones because my dad was like, they did 42 R2D2s in this movie. It must be good. Like that was his selling point. I'm like, all right, we'll go see this. It's the only Star Wars film I'd ever seen. And I was like, oh, that was kind of interesting. So I have a real affection for that film because it was my first one. But then I didn't really go back and watch. I think I might have seen Revenge of the Sith. I probably would have seen that. And I thought that was pretty badass at the time. Because, like your heroes killing children. Like you never see that. So in a kid's film.
Yeah, yeah.
But then it wasn't 2 years later where Tina was like, she's like, we should watch Star Wars. And we were literally over at her house, at your parents' house, Liz. And we just went down to like Coles because you could buy DVDs at Coles at that point.
Yes.
And
yes.
she thought they had the Star Wars movies. And I was like, oh, which one? And she's like, Empire. I'm like, all right. And I was just like, whoa, this is crazy. I couldn't believe, again, like a film that just holds up. And that's what I think is really interesting about pretty much everyone's list that I've spoken to. Like the films, like there are plenty of terrible movies from the 80s, but everyone we talk about holds up. Like it still works in the modern era. Even if they can be a little bit problematic, because like you put that aside, they're great films and they just work, for a current audience as well.
They're adaptable to like even modern day.
I read a funny story just as a side note. You mentioned Yoda before. A story came out just today from Joe Dante, who made the Gremlins.
Yeah, Gremlins.
And his criticism was that Grogu, the baby Yoda character, looks too much like Mogwai from the Gremlins, and that was basically just a blatant rip-off until somebody reminded him that Yoda was designed before.
Yeah.
Mowgli from the. So it's like,
Be quiet.
you just shush, just shush.
Sit down.
Off you go.
That's like when James Cameron's like, oh, there's too many Marvel films. By the way, there's 5 Avatar sequels coming out. I'm like, some of these guys. Like,
Anything for money.
Yeah. Those are some great lists. Some really, really good stuff. Very impressed.
It's really hard, buddy.
It's tough. And I've said it every time. I'm like, it's a really hard format, and I could change the format, but I choose not to.
No, this is good.
Do we have any honorable mentions? Anything we didn't cover that we want to talk about from the 80s?
I think you said Aliens. We said Scarface. No, I think there was 2 that I found a lot of the books that I read in high school actually were movies as well, and they had been made into movies in the 80s. So I haven't actually watched this one, and I've been planning to, but The Outsiders was one that I would really like to watch, and can't seem to get it anywhere at the moment. So I think I have to basically buy it. Anyway, but that's one. I used to read that book in high school, and then I actually really enjoyed that.
It's an early Tom Cruise film.
Yeah, and Patrick Swayze's in it, and Matt Dillon.
I'd say Matt Dillon.
Yeah. And I really enjoyed that book, so I'd really like to see that in the movie. And then Cry for Freedom was another one.
Yeah,
Denzel Washington.
Was it an 80s movie?
That's an 80s movie.
Okay.
Yeah. I think like late 80s.
Yeah.
So, and I watched that. I had to watch that for English, actually, Year 12 English. And that's a really, really good, very powerful movie as well. And actually, that's a true story as well. So it's hard to believe that actually happened, apartheid. But, yep. So those were my honourable mentions.
Yeah. I mean, again, I don't know. See, I get confused sometimes which movies and when they're made.
Yeah, sure.
So it feels like,
Yeah.
because I saw them in the 80s or the 90s, it feels like they were in the 80s. But, I mentioned Raging Bull before. Stand By Me was
great
really
film.
influential
Yeah.
to me. What else? The Breakfast Club.
Yeah.
Yeah, John Hughes not mentioned in this episode.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Breakfast Club. What's another one?
I don't know.
I actually really enjoyed again. The Lost Boys was one
Yes.
that had Kiefer Sutherland, and that was pretty big in the 80s.
And Corey Feldman.
Corey Feldman, yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. I'm trying to think of what else.
Lost Boys is a great movie.
What is it? I've not seen this, but the
Lost
Goonies.
Boys.
The Goonies.
The Goonies. I haven't
Yes.
seen that one, but
Yeah.
I heard that's a good one.
Oh, Goonies is great.
Yeah.
You said The Breakfast Club. 16 Candles was another one, apparently, that
yeah.
was very popular. Footloose, but I have not seen that. But that's questionable by some people, I think. David's like, you ain't missing much. It was a flock of seagulls, and that's about it.
It's a song. The first 5
Yeah.
minutes, that's the movie.
So Kevin Bacon, he's a dancer, though, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. There were lots of dancing movies, I think, in the 80s, right, James? Must have been. It must have been
Yeah,
another
Flashdance.
genre. Flashdance. Fame?
Electric Boogaloo. I don't know.
Yeah.
Was it Break Into Electric Boogaloo, the breakdance movie?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
There was a lot of good war movies in the 80s. So
You said Platoon.
Gallipoli-
Platoon.
I said Platoon.
What about the one with there's like a not Gallipoli or something like not
With Mel
Gallipoli.
Gibson?
Yes.
There was
Yeah.
Gallipoli, yeah.
Is that Gallipoli?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Patton, which is
Yeah.
with George C. Scott.
Yep.
Yep. Patton was Deliverance, I think was in the 80s.
Oh, Deliverance is 78.
78, was it?
Yeah.
Yes. Again, I'm not 100% sure.
That's all right. When I had Josh on a few weeks ago, he was going
Okay.
through all his honorable mentions. He's like, Alien. I'm like, that's 70s.
Yeah.
He's like, Star Wars. I'm like, that's 70s. Like,
Born on the 4th of July is a great movie with Tom Cruise.
Yeah. Top Gun.
Top Gun.
Although, mind you, I actually haven't seen it.
me either.
So maybe that's what we need to do.
80s is the era of Tom Cruise. You've got
it
Cocktail,
is.
you've got Cruising,
Yeah.
you've got Risky Business.
Yeah. There you go.
The 80s.
That's it. May they never come back. Alrighty, you've made it through the interview, so now we of course have the rapid fire rounds. There's 5 new questions.
I got stuck on this one last
The,
time.
Yeah, I think I did
the
too.
not so rapid fire questions. Well, the good thing is you may end up just going back to some of the stuff you've talked about already.
Yes.
So the first question I'm going to ask you both is, which movie to you is the definitive 80s movie? What movie do you think of when you think of the 80s?
Wow.
You can look at your list. It's okay.
Yeah. I'll say it first because I think I've sort of made my point fairly clear around Star Wars and how influential that
Yeah.
was.
Mm.
So
Nice one.
Yeah, look, I'm going to say, I'm actually going to say Ghostbusters. I know that's going back
Nice.
with my Back to the Future, like which is, but I think Ghostbusters because, you know, it's all the hair, the shoulder pads, it's the, you know, the really really bad graphics. I'm not painting a pretty picture, but like,
I love the visual effects in
I know, yeah,
Ghostbusters.
the visual effects are amazing in the 80s. So I would say, yeah. It's really hard, but yeah, I would say Ghostbusters.
Alrighty. We talked a lot about music today.
Yes.
So which 80s movie has the best theme song or best soundtrack? Or you can answer both.
I'm going to say Dirty Dancing because I just think
You had
a
the
lot
time
of the
of your
songs.
life?
I was having a look through the list. I was having a look through the list, and I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, all those. But it's even some of the old 1950s and 60s songs that were in there that they, because obviously it's based in that era too. So I would say it's Dirty Dancing.
okay, I'm going to put one out there. What year was Good Morning Vietnam?
Oh, let me have a look.
That's another good
That's a
film.
great soundtrack.
I-
Pretty much any Vietnam
Yeah.
movie has a great soundtrack.
That could be the best soundtrack. If that's
It's
Could I
87.
even say-
You can have it.
Can I say that
That's my
Footloose
nomination.
also has some really great music? I haven't seen the movie, but I just think I've just got, you know, the Footloose song in my head. So yeah.
It's always on those wedding mega mixes. So.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Nice one. Okay. So then which actor or actress defined the 80s for you? You think 80s, who is the face of the 80s?
wow.
That's hard, isn't it?
Yeah. We've said Tom Cruise. That
Yeah. I'd say in male, personally, yeah, Tom Cruise. Female,
wow. Put us on the
Female's
spot.
hard.
Is it
Michelle Pfeiffer? No. Would she have been a female?
Well,
Oh, she is a female.
What a
question.
She is a female. Or would you say Carrie Fisher? Oh,
no.
no. Because she,
No.
she was in Star Wars.
Oh, wow. I don't know.
Tom Cruise is a good pull.
Have you
Tom
got,
Cruise.
That was my answer.
Have you got some? Go on, Mr. Google.
Some ladies.
Have some? No. Have we got some nominees? Let's see. What does Mr. Google say about actresses from the 80s?
Well, mine was Molly Ringwald. That's what I went.
Okay.
That's what I went to because she was in all those teen films. You got Jennifer Jason Leigh. She's in
Yeah.
quite a few things.
Yeah.
Meg Ryan. Or
Meg
she-
Ryan.
She does move
Ryan.
into the. She does kind of
Transition to 90s.
90s as
yeah,
well.
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I'd say, yeah. Yep.
Kim
Meg Ryan.
Basinger.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Heaps.
It's got a few.
Can't decide.
There you go.
We'll go with Tom Cruise.
Yeah,
Cruise
Tom
is a good
Cruise.
Yeah.
You don't have to have the same answers, by the way. You can have
Yeah,
different
yeah.
answers.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Best 80s vehicle or mode of transport.
That's hard. I'm going to say the DeLorean.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
DeLorean. Yeah. That's my personal. Yeah.
All right. I'm going to say the X-Wing
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
good one.
yeah,
That's the
that's
first
good
appearance
too.
of the
or
X-Wing.
Millennium Falcon. One of
Yeah.
those. No, we'll go with the
Nice.
X-Wing.
Yeah,
We'll go with
yeah.
the X-Wing.
Nice. I but keep pulling for Rufus's elevator and Bill and Ted, but no one's gone for that one
Yeah,
yet.
yeah,
We've
yeah.
had a
Bill
couple
and
of-
Ted's Excellent Adventure.
We've had a couple of Ghostbusters hearses, but
Yes. And that was also something. Yeah.
no Bluesmobiles, but that's
Yeah.
okay. We'll get there. Excellent. And this is the last one. This is the trickiest question. Last time I said, what movie don't we want to ever remake? This time I want to know which 80s film should we remake?
Oh, what should they remake?
Should they remake Footloose because it's that bad? I don't know. I haven't seen
They
the
did
movie.
remake Footloose.
Oh, they did today?
But they could remake it again. You might have a different take on it.
Yeah. I don't look. I'm not a big fan of Gremlins. I never watched it as a kid, and I still haven't actually seen it. But I just don't get it's like Billy Bob's. Why do you have like these weird mechanical animals with like really bad fur that stinks? Like, I'm not a fan of like the Furby. Like, I never liked Furbies back in the 2000s and late 90s when they came out. So I personally would be like, I think we're past the Gremlins and all of that. So that's my personal opinion. I wouldn't.
So you want to remake it? That's what you're saying? You want to remake it?
I
Gremlins? What are we remaking?
I
yeah.
don't know. That wasn't answering your question. Sorry, Jane. I was
Well,
just
while
saying.
you're thinking, I
about that.
am gonna say the Goonies
Okay.
Yes.
because
Not blasphemous. What do the people
no,
say?
because yeah, it was big at the time, but it hasn't had that cultural revolution that a lot of franchises, and it wasn't a franchise. It
No,
was
it
just
never
a standalone,
franchised.
never franchised. But a lot of other films of that era were, and I'm not suggesting it should be. I'm just saying that I reckon revisiting that kids banding. There's not enough of these movies
No,
where
that's
you've got
true.
kids are the heroes,
Yeah.
and the bad guys. Yeah, they're bad guys,
Yeah.
but they're relatable bad guys.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Just questioning that. I don't think there's lots of movies like that, but there's lots of series. Like Stranger Things is an example of where the kids are heroes. The kids are taken seriously
Yeah.
for being part of resolving the issues in Stranger Things. So yeah,
I just think it had
that's a good idea.
just it great group of kids. It's family friendly. It's got the right level of right level of action and adventure and mystery and
And it's not too dangerous. There's a level of danger, but they're probably going to get over
Yeah,
it.
they're probably-
Maybe a couple of cuts and bruises. They're okay.
yeah. All right, I'm gonna go with the Goonies.
Yeah.
Nice one.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure on what I would. There's definitely movies that I wouldn't want to watch, but no, I'll go with that too.
Okay.
Yeah,
Nice one. That's an easy one because you don't have to cast it. 'Cause you're like, well, we'll just get a bunch of kids.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Doesn't matter who they are.
yeah.
Nice one. Second time round, you've survived again.
Whew. Nah.
Made it through the gauntlet.
Been amazing.
Excellent. David, you have a show that you
Yeah.
run. You do some streams and you have a podcast as well. You want to tell everyone about that?
Yeah, so we on Twitch we have on Wednesday nights now we have a show called Games Night App, and which we just a group of friends sit around and play some games, and so that happens on a Wednesday night. We did record some podcasts. We have been back. We recorded one on Wednesday night that will come out soon. Just look out for Games Night app. You can find it on Spotify. You can find it on Apple Podcasts. Yeah, just give it a go.
Nice one. Well, thank you for joining me again. It's always appreciated, and love having you guys on. You'll definitely be back, I'm sure, when we go into the 90s. And I keep threatening horror because October is coming up, so we will be doing some Halloween stuff as well. In the meantime, that is going to do it for this week's episode of I Was a Teenage Film Snob. We'll be back next week. If you want to follow us online, I was a teenage film snob on Instagram, underscores between every word because Instagram is not nice to me. So that's it. As always,
Thank you.
I was a teenage film snob, but I'm trying to be better. We'll see you next week.
See you later.
See ya.